your inquiry, your officials will be able to get the information. And that is a big advantage. The only caveat to that, you and I know, and many of us in the room have lived through crises. In a crisis, you're never going to have perfect information. You have to know when you've done enough in order to take a decision with imperfect information. But you do have the privilege of, in these roles, of being able to draw on the resources of your country, including the intellectual resources of the country, and it's important to do so.
And look, last question, and it's a big one. But you're an economist. You've been chair of the Financial Stability Board. You've navigated now both financial crises and trade crises. Where do you see the global economy in 5 years' time, or over the next 5 years? Are there big things you think are going to change?
Well, I think it's. I will quote our host, our ultimate host, the Prime Minister this morning, which is words to the effect of the old world or the old system is gone, the new one has not yet formed. And so it's a big question, and it's an important question because in many respects, those of us in this room will help determine where that is. And what we were talking about earlier is Canada free trade with ASEAN, CPTPP with EU, that link becoming there, following through on the inclusivity and sustainability. The extent to which we actually follow that through, this room, literally and metaphorically, will help determine the direction of the global economy, or a substantial proportion of the global economy. And because it's ASEAN, because it's dynamic, because it's forward-looking, because it's young, that sort of shows where the world is going. And so I think it can be incredibly influential. And we're out of time.
Thank you, Prime Minister Mark Carney. Do join me in a huge round of thanks for Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, some of you are standing. Please stand for the Right Honourable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. Thank you also to Professor Ngairi Woods for steering that conversation. A lot of substance, a lot of meat, and a lot of food for thought for the global economy in hand. Whenever you feel comfortable, everyone, please kindly take your seats. So our final panel discussion, everyone, is on artificial intelligence. We're back to AI once again. So it's like a little bit of a U-turn. We keep going back to artificial intelligence because, just to recap, Her Excellency Kristina Georgieva, the
Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is an audio test. Hey, yeah. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Parfait. C'est bon.
No, I was Good evening, everyone. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, let me, on behalf of ASEAN Business Advisory Council, welcome all of you to KL, and thank you, Prime Minister, for leading such a high-quality bunch of leaders, business leaders from Canada. I just want to make 3 points with Canada and ASEAN. Firstly, I read somewhere that roughly when it comes to Malaysia, something like 90% of Canadians know very little. When it comes to Singapore, it's about 83%. And I think the reverse is probably even more sharp, right? If you ask a Malaysian about Canada, very little. So to me, that's upside, sir. That's upside. The second point I'd like to make is that, I think that kind of upside means that you have to engage. You have to engage. And I think what you're doing, sir, is perfect. If we don't meet, and there's a Malay saying, tak jumpa tak cinta, which is if you don't meet, you can't fall in love. And I think this kind of trips are absolutely crucial. And I'd also like to say this, that from my interactions with Wayne at the Business Council and so on, I get the impression that Canadians don't show off very well. Yeah, and I think you really need to come out there and be able to boast about your business, a bit like your neighbors. Your neighbors do it very well, probably overdo it, but somewhere in between, hopefully. And, I think the prospects for business between the region are good. Prime Minister, you covered it very, very well in your fireside chat just now. I don't need to go into that. And my final point is this. I've done business with Canadians. I had a partnership with Kevin during my time as a banker. And we found Canadians very, very good partners. And I think good partnerships are the way to go. So with that, Prime Minister, thank you again. I hand you over to Kevin.
Well, first, thank you, Prime Minister Carney, for coming today. And those of us who saw your fireside chat earlier, I think were impressed by the clarity of what you're trying to do and the clarity of your vision for Canada. On behalf of everybody who's here, and it's great to see so many people I know who are from the ASEAN region, but are also from Canada, who are interested in the ASEAN region. And Dato' Nazir's words were really good. I think that building an understanding of what's happening here is important. And I remember that one of our partners in the Philippines told me, you can fake caring, but you can't fake showing up. And I think that we want to recognize that you're here, and you don't build relationships unless you're here and you're taking the time to do that. So I think that's extremely important. And I do see, and our history at Sun Life goes back 130 years in the ASEAN region. We've been 130 years in the Philippines. We're the #1 insurance company in the Philippines and the #2 asset management firm there. And we did that by being here and understanding and building relationships. And these types of events where we can bring business leaders from Canada and business leaders from the ASEAN region together are extremely important. And I think the ability for us to create trade relationships where they're based on trade rules and the rule of law that you spoke about earlier, Prime Minister, I think is really important. And there's so much opportunity in the ASEAN region, fast-growing economies, 600 million people, that we can equally work together on things like infrastructure, investing, things like finding ways around energy and sustainable energy, and finding ways to do more together. I do thank the Business Council of Canada and Goldie for supporting this arrangement to get here and bring Canadian companies here. As Dato' Nazir said, more Canadian companies need to show up, and we need to do more than just show up and more than just build an understanding. We have to start executing on new trade agreements. And I think a partnership between business and government where we work together to find those opportunities to actually start executing. And I think we have so much capabilities in Canada that we can bring to the rest of the world. If you think about Canada as being a place where you've got sometimes we think of ourselves as small, and we are small in population, but we're not small in economy. We're not small in natural resources. We're not small in energy. We're not small in technology. We're not small in terms of the quality of the people we have. And I think we have to bring more of that Canada to the rest of the world. And I think the ASEAN countries is a great place for us to bring that and to focus and to facilitate. So thank you all for being here tonight. And I'm going to turn it over to Wayne for some comments.
Right Honourable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. My next was to thank Tan Sri Nazir, who had to leave, and I promise I will improve my boasting from now on. Distinguished guests, it's my great pleasure on behalf of the Canada-ASEAN Business Council to welcome you to the Canada-ASEAN Business Reception. We're greatly honoured to be joined by the Right Honourable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada. As we all know, we're gathered at a very particularly pivotal moment in global trade and commerce, and my message is simple, that Canada is a partner that ASEAN can trust, and based on this trust, the Canada-ASEAN partnership has continued gaining momentum. The Indonesia-Canada Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement signed last month, the ongoing ASEAN-Canada Free Trade Agreement negotiations targeted for conclusion early next year signal our collective trust and commitment to a predictable, rules-based, and future-ready economic architecture. With what's happening globally, it is truly remarkable that our two regions can come together in a civil manner for mutual benefit and drive two trade agreements, I'm projecting a bit here, forward in such a relative short period of time, with more yet to come, particularly with the Philippines, which is quite exciting. ASEAN has responded in kind with the upgrading of Canada to a strategic partner, the CABC's ASEAN accreditation as one of only 3 private sector groups, thus honored, the conclusion of the Indonesian-Canada CPA, and the ongoing Canada-ASEAN FTA. Growth in trade and investment has followed with a double-digit expansion for the past decade and record high two-way trade of USD approximately $24 billion in 2024. However, there is a long way yet to go, especially in energy security, food security, two-way capital flows, digital services, and innovation. With regards to capital flows, ASEAN capital flows, notably originating from Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and Malaysia, have begun making several major investments in the past several years in Canada's forestry, mining, port infrastructure, institutional real estate, agri-food processing, energy, and technology sectors. We definitely hope to see more, and maybe after this reception, we will see that many conversations advancing that. In closing, on behalf of the CABC, I would like to extend our sincere appreciation to Prime Minister Carney, his office, the Government of Canada, Tan Sri Nazir Razak and the ASEAN BOC, as well as BCC, for making this event today possible. And it's now my great privilege to invite Prime Minister Carney up to the stage for his remarks. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Wayne. So my big takeaway is to show up. So I'll keep showing up, and I thank you all for showing up, and I want to make it worth your while, and I'll just highlight a couple of points. Some of you did have to sit through my fireside chat, but let me just hit a few things there. I think the first is just to get across the scale of ambition in Canada right now. We intend over the course. The course of food security. We mentioned food security. Ken's Sites is your one-stop shop for food security with Nutrien globally, and that's actually not an exaggeration. It happens to be true. There you go. First boast of the evening. Secondly, it's enormous food. I'm just warming up for my American level of boasting. We are going to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next 10 years. We think we can do it in a much shorter period of time. That's $300 billion of additional exports. Most of that is going to come from Asia, in our view, and I'll justify that in a second. But on top of this, and I just underscore this because this is a two-way relationship, our expectation coming out of the budget is that we're laying out a path for at least $500 billion of additional investment in Canada in the next 5 years. Additional, not total, additional. And that's U.S. So these are orders of magnitude that start to be relevant. Areas, both in terms of the two-way trade and the domestic investment, we're basically going to build out the infrastructure to help drive energy corridors, both clean and conventional, trade corridors, new port infrastructure, and others. But from LNG, where we're putting ourselves on a path to at least 50 million tons by the end of this decade, but double that by 2040. potentially more. It's easily done when you have the 4th largest reserves of LNG in the world, and you have demand here for the energy transition. To nuclear, a few days ago, I launched with my good friend, Premier Ford. Did I say good friend, Premier Ford? I said the always entertaining, no, the always interesting, the always unpredictable Premier Ford. Yeah, God, sorry, I don't know why I mixed the two up, President and Premier Ford. Is that on, by the way? No. We launched, in all seriousness, the first commercial SMR. So this is not a pilot, it's 300 megawatt SMR, which we're building out 1.2, ultimately 1.2 gigawatts of SMR over the course of the next several years. 80% of the supply chain for that is in Canada. Okay, so this is basically, it's Canadian technology, Canadian supply chain that we're gonna drag through, and ultimately, obviously, an opportunity here. Critical minerals, I won't belabor it, but we are one of the biggest deposits. We are the biggest financier of mining in the world. Okay, full stop. So the ecosystem is there and can reach out. And when it comes to finance, whether it's Sun Life, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Sun Life and the depth there and the infrastructure expertise, partners with our pension funds, who are the largest and most sophisticated infrastructure amongst, I'll be Canadian, I'll say amongst the most sophisticated. They are the most sophisticated institutional investors in infrastructure. Two-way and good partners into Canada, but great partners here in ASEAN for committed longer-term capital. Now I'm going to do a bit of a side point, but just to emphasize when I say on scale of our ambitions. Sometimes you have policy and then you have personnel. Personnel is often policy. My chief of staff came here to the government from running our largest law firm and then being the number 2 at the Caisse de dépôt, which is one of those largest pension funds. The head of the civil service, who we just brought in, was CEO of our largest telecom, CFO of our largest railway, CEO for 10 years of our largest pension fund, and then our largest utility. So, you know, a real business person who's come in to run the civil service to orient. That way, my Minister of Natural Resources, 30 years on Wall Street, Bay Street, financing infrastructure. Our Minister of International Trade, Manny Sidhu. I can't say 30 years because you are older than 30, right, Manny? But you are, no. Trade lawyer expertise prior to stepping up and running and serving the people of Canada. Our special envoy, Ian McKay, out of Tokyo, deep business experience, including surviving 9 years working with Howard Lutnick. This guy is tough. This guy is tough, I can assure you. And I have some background in the private sector. Understand. We know how business works. We've worked in and around it. We know how to structure finance. We know how to move quickly. And we will do all of those things to help deliver on the scale. It was referenced, Wayne, thank you for referencing it. The Indonesia free trade agreement was done quite quickly. We pushed it over when we came into government. We've just announced that intention to finish the ASEAN free trade agreement, which has been carefully negotiated for 4 years, which is going to be completed next year. But a similar timeline for a free trade agreement with the Philippines. And then we are working, as I alluded to those of you who came to the Fireside chat, on a much more ambitious docking of CPTPP to the EU, which Canada can do because we're in both, and therefore we're an honest broker across both. But that just gives you a sense of where we are. I want to finish. You want me to finish, and I will finish. I want to finish back in on the reliable partner and values, because as I said on the stage, you need a partner who respects the letter of agreements. We are that partner, but also the spirit of agreements and the values underneath those agreements. And we do believe in rules-based law. We believe in the values of sustainability, inclusivity, solidarity, partnership. But I am going to quote, and I tested our ambassador to ASEAN earlier, and she's going to sing along, the words from the ASEAN anthem, which I know you all know, but just in case I didn't actually this morning. But two of the key lines that stuck with me is that in ASEAN, we dare to dream and we care to share. And so Canada dares to dream big. We have laid out, we're laying out $1 trillion of investment opportunities over the course of the next decade, U.S. And we dare to care. Sustainability, inclusivity, and in partnership. The ASEAN anthem, everyone after me. Later on, there'll be after this reception, there'll be a short karaoke where we'll have a chance to sing it together. But thank you for being here, and we look forward to the partnership and to showing up.